Hi friends. So in the last section we have studied about the implicit cursors. Now we'll study about the explicit cursors. So explicit cursor is defined in the declaration of the PLSQL block. It is created on the select statement which returns more than one row. We can provide a suitable name to the cursor. What are the usages of the explicit cursor? So the main usage is row by row operations. Cursors are best used when performing row by row operations that can't be accomplished with the set based operations. For example, when you need to fix a stored procedure once per row in a table, at that time we use the explicit cursor, and this would help you to fetch the row by row data which you can perform any of the operations, arithmetic operation, logic operation, any kind of operation what you want to perform. So the another advantage is cursors are more faster than the while loop. Cursors help us to provide the first few rows before the whole set is assembled. Without using cursors, the entire result set must be delivered before any rows are displayed by the applicant. So these are the advantages of the cursor. So by using cursor we can get a better response and in a better manner, and this would help you to write your code in a good way. So there are 4 steps in which we write down this explicit cursors. So what are the 4 steps? We'll look out and then we'll try the example for it. Write down a program to use it by using the cursor. So 4 steps in which we use it is the declare, then open, then fetch, and the last one is close. So declare is a section in which we declare the cursor, and this is the declaration section of for the cursor. Then open the cursor in the execution section, and then fetch the data, and last is the close the cursor. So the declaration is in the we declare the cursor in the declaration section. Of the PLSQL block, and open the in the execution block in the execution section. Then fetch is also in the execution section. And close is also there in the execution section. So this is how we write down a cursor. You'll learn it clearly when we'll write an example, but this is only just for just a query, just to tell you that how we are going to write a cursor. So first we declare the cursor. It's like declare, then we use the keyword cursor for writing it, for mentioning that this is a cursor. Then the name of the cursor, we can choose any of the suitable name according to the our code, that what type of cursor it is, what working is it doing. So on that basis we can choose any of the cursor name. So this I'm writing a query for fetching the employee data, so I'm naming it as amp underscore cursor. So this cursor name is amp cursor. Then we use the word is, and then write the query which we want to fetch from which we want to fetch the data, like select star from employee master table. Yeah. And then the semicolon. So this is all about the declaration section. So I told you that amp cursor is the name of the cursor. Amp cursor here is used for creating the cursor on query, which returns the record for all the data in the employee master. Then coming to the next section, which is the accessing part of the cursor. For accessing, we'll move to the execution part, that is open the cursor, fetch the cursor, and then close the cursor. So the syntax of these are like open, then the cursor name what we have defined, then fetch, then again the cursor from which you want to fetch the data, and the last one is close. So these are the syntaxes of the open, fetch, and the close. So this is cursor name, this is cursor name, fetch cursor name, and then close cursor name. So when a cursor is opened, the first row become the current row. When the data is from where the data is fetched, and it is copied to the variable which is declared in the cursor or in the PLSQL block. So on every fetch statement, the pointer, when we fetch one statement, the pointer moves to the next statement. When there is more than one row in the select statement, which we have written in the declaration part, then we need to use the loops to find out the data, to fetching the data one by row and then one by one and then returning it down. So this is how we will use this cursor. There are few attributes which we have studied in the last section, which are used in the cursors, that are percent found. I hope you remember all these. So that are percent found, percent not found. We have done one example also for that. Percent row count and percent is open. So these all will be used here also to write down the cursor. Percent found, percent not found, percent row count, and percent is open. So these are all which we'll use and write down the cursor. So next we'll move to write down a cursor first to check that how the cursor works. So I'll open a new worksheet for it. Now I'll first declare. I can copy paste that from the previous section also, what we have written here. So I'm choosing this. Here I'm selecting only one record in the select statement. How we use the loop, then that we'll discuss in the further section. So select star from employee master where m code is equal to emp 001. Right. So here we have only chosen one record that will be fetched out. So you know that in the PLSQL block, when we fetch the data, we need to pass it into the variable. But for this, we do not need to, here we do not need to pass the data into the variable because we'll pass it in the later section. Roll back the changes. Okay, so m first name. Then begin. Then the first statement to open the cursor. So this is open m cursor. then fetch the data. So in the declaration part, I'm declaring the when variable amp underscore v underscore amp name, that is of the data type varchar2. Open amp cursor, then fetch amp cursor, then here we'll fetch out and we'll define that in which we want to fetch out the data. So that is into v amp name. Then let's write the dbms output to see the result. Then the last step, close the cursor and then end. So now you can see that in the declaration part, this is declared begin and end. That is the PL/SQL block. So in the declaration section, we have declared the amp cursor, then we have open the cursor, then we fetch the cursor, and then the close the cursor. This is the simple cursor which we have written down, and we'll compile it. So you can see, let's do it again because there is one space we have left out. So now you can see that the PL/SQL block is successfully completed and the output is Vikas. So now you can see that it has fetched the record, then open the cursor, fetch the data into this vamp name, and then close the cursor. This is how the cursor works. We'll further study about in detail that how we use loop, for loop, and while loop while in the cursor while writing it down. So write it yourself to learn it in a better way. Thanks.